Awesome. So I don't have any slides. I wanted to just pretty much share my experience, have it as a kind of like an open conversation with all of you. And I am actually really looking forward to learn from Farah and Shari because I haven't talked to them before. So this is exciting. I'm not the only one that is doing this kind of job, and this is really exciting. So I've been working for Front Range for over 12 years now, but I just came back recently last year in 2023, thanks to Kay. She dragged me back in um, because we are developing an early childhood education program that is 100% in Spanish and online. We do have a lot of um, students in that program that really don't know any English. Some of them do, and some of them are in the process of learning English. So one of the things that we encounter is the challenge to find instructors that actually have the skills to teach in Spanish. We do have a lot of instructors in the Colorado area that can teach early childhood education, but is to teaching it in Spanish. That is has been a challenge. Also having the support staff for students that only speak Spanish, so advisors or technical support. Many times I've been playing not only as instructional designer but also for technical support for students because I got myself into the job to call D2L to see how good their their Spanish support was, and oh Lord, that was a challenge. That was jumping a lot of hoops to get to somebody, but I needed to actually know how to speak English to get to the person that speaks Spanish. So that was fun. So yeah, that was another challenge. And one of the biggest challenge that we have encountered is actually working with an LMS that was designed to be in English. D2L has a Spanish package, but when we actually put that Spanish package, make it active, and I was meeting with Kristen. I forgot Kristen's last name. I'm so sorry.
Riverdale.
Thank you. Riverdale. Yeah. She is the D2L person for the entire system, and she's actually the person that can, install all of these packages. And when we were doing that and we, turn on the Spanish, it was really, really off. A problem that we have is that was just taking the words very literal. And sometimes when you translate to another language, in my case, is Spanish, things don't make sense if we actually translate it to literal. So I had to go in and manually translate a lot of these things. I give it back to Kristen. Kristen upload all of these, these concepts, this terminology, all of that. But for some reason, it regressed back to what the automatic translation was. So that was fun. The other challenge that we have is even though we might be all a Spanish speaker, uh, there is different type of Spanish. That is the truth. I'm Colombian and I can be in the same room with a person from Mexico or with a person from El Salvador, and sometimes we don't understand each other. Like what? We are like totally lost. So it's finding that common Spanish that is the most acceptable by everybody or the most understood by everyone. And that's another challenge because, like I said, we all have those, I don't know, maybe like special words or words that don't even make sense, like for other Spanish speakers. Like for us, children is niños, but for Mexicans is chinos, for us is pelaos. Even in my own country, in Colombia, depending on what region you go, children is being said differently in, in the different areas in the country. So that was another challenge, just finding the Spanish that is the most accepted, the most understand, among the community, because we have in that program, we have a very large Mexican population, but we have people from Venezuela. One of our instructors is from Venezuela. We have people from Chile. We actually have somebody from Norway, but she speaks Spanish, which is kind of awesome. Um, so yeah, that was another challenge. The challenge with the LMS, finding people that can actually speak Spanish and teach these concepts and these terminologies and in Spanish, because I'm gonna be honest with you. If you make me explain engineering in Spanish, I won't be able to do it, and I'm an engineer myself. So, so it's just finding those challenges.
Sorry, I've been typing. Kay's commentary has been running the whole time. I was going to say something for those of us who are learning designers, instructional designers here. Deanna's role was really not just, not just doing the course, not just working with the system LMS administrator to make sure that the headings could be turned in Spanish. She was really acting as what at Front Range we call an embedded instructional designer, meaning someone who stays with the class and helps the class, not someone who builds the class and it gets handed over, but somebody who stays with the class. The students know who she is in the course. she she answers questions, things like that. For some of our designing builds, we stay at Front Range, we stay in as embedded instructional designers. Farah knows because I've been an embedded instructional designer in some of her classes too.
Yes.
So
Yeah, and another challenge was actually like working with the people that are managing, which I love them all, by the way, they're awesome. They're managing the program, but they don't speak any English. So I was kind of in the middle there as well. I was like, okay, this is the way that we have to present it. You guys are the subject matter expert, which is fantastic, and you really care about your students and your instructors, but it was just trying to, show them like this is not taking what, because they will give us, English, the English version of the course. It was like, oh yeah, we have a lot of content already. Here you go. It's like, yeah, but that's not the same as, the Spanish version of what we need to present, because it's not the same, the terminology might not be the same. And trying to explain that to, the members of the committee that are running this program, that was another challenge, because we were always, the instructors and I were always kind of like in the middle, like, okay, this is what we need, and this is the translation that the students are giving us. I was part of actually what do you call that first meeting that we have with the students, Kay? I forgot what you guys call
orientation meeting, orientation
Yeah,
and
the
overview.
orientation. So in the orientation meeting, we have a lot of, our chairs and faculty that only speak English, and we had all of our students that speak Spanish. So you can see in their faces that we're like, look, like we're here just to like be here, but we don't know what's happening. So that was another challenge as well.
And I'm just typing things there. So Deanna, is it okay if we take like questions at the end?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll open this for the discussion because we want to know everybody else's experiences. So Shari, you're up.
Okay, great. Also, I want to thank Deanna for when the announcement came out in Front Range.
So,
Well, she'll be back.
yeah, I think her internet dropped because she was getting choppy there.
Okay, while we get her back, I guess me and Farah and I will skip forward. Okay, and Shari has this excellent part, excellent part, and we will grab her. But so Farah, we'll go ahead while we're waiting. Farah, please introduce yourself while I get the screen share going.
Good morning, Farah Bennani. I'm the chair of the Global Partnership at US Distance Learning, and from the academic side, I am a STEM person as well. So,
and I'm just going to
you
ask.
can tell from the accent, I speak 6 languages, so hence why I am one of the presenters in this session.
So Cara, if we can get screen share, if I can get screen share privileges, that would be great, because we do have a couple slides. So if I could just be made co-host, but Shari's back.
Yeah,
Shari,
sorry.
Shari will also need to be made co-host so that she can share slides.
So Kay, do I need to pull up my own slides or?
Yeah, just
okay.
just go ahead and pull up your slides.
Okay, but Deanna, as I was saying, we had a student, a Spanish speaker, learning English when the announcement came out, and she was just so excited because she thought she was going to have to wait several years to have enough English understanding to be able to start her program. So it definitely is a program that's meaningful to the students in our community. So thank you for helping to get that started.
That's awesome. I'm glad.
All right, so I'm going to need to pull these up. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that. So let me get that going.
Did you get your permissions?
I got mine. What I see Shari doing is I'm thinking that she is signing into FRCC super duper extra security to be able to get into
Got it. Oh yeah, that.
into the slide. So I'll just say real quickly, Shari put in for this awesome OER grant for advanced OER, and as soon as she's ready, she can get started.
Right.
When should I?
See here.
Sorry, I missed that.
All right, now Siri's trying to talk to me.
We do
Oh,
have our
goodness.
AI in here.
Yes, no, I apologize. I would have had this up if I had been had known. Okay, so let me open this and get to my Teams.
And for everybody, while we're waiting, like in chat, if you want to type in what your languages are, go ahead. We can start asking that now. So Farah, your 6 languages. You want to share in chat so we can ooh and ah?
Yeah, I am curious to know.
Since I can't see the screen, Kay, are you able to read some of those answers out?
Oh yeah. Okay. So this is really cool. Deanna's Spanish, English, and Portuguese. Jess is an instructional designer and faculty, Spanish, English, Arabic, Portuguese, and Serbo-Croatian. Farah, of course, French, British, Arabic, Spanish, Moroccan dialect, and Egyptian dialect. Stephen says Scratchy Maori. Anastasia, English, German, Greek, and some basic French, some understanding of written Dutch and Italian. Amanda, English here, but would love to understand more designing for other languages. And Deanna says, I take my hat off to all of you.
Thank you, Diana.
Kay, are you able to start your portion while I figure this out?
Oh, sure.
All right,
We
thank
we
you.
can go ahead and do ours. So the portion that we'll be doing, Shari's going to cover the topics and some of the terms like way better than we will, but we will go ahead and do that. Okay, can everybody see my screen? If you can see the screen, go ahead
Yes.
and type. Oh, I was going to have them participate, but thank you, Deanna. I'll start our slideshow. Okay, this is something that developed in like the last like 7 weeks, and this was really inspired by Shari. Farah and I debated about what we would call it. We're calling it creative design with Arabic focal language vocabulary. So we'll tell you about this learning design and teaching situation. So we started this brand new program at Front Range. It's a bachelor's degree. It's one of the few bachelor's degrees that our community college offers. So students get an associate's in something that is a creative industry. So it could range anywhere from like marketing, which I teach marketing, I consider creative. Anything from marketing to audio engineering to horticulture to culinary arts. So what they can do is get an associate's degree, and then they can take the 60 credits to get a business for the creative industries. So this is a combination of really business courses and then design type of courses. So the course that this is in is design thinking and research. And what we ended up using for this course, which is open educational resources, is this is from Stanford University. It's from what they call the D Lab. And this is a 40-page booklet on how to do design thinking. It's great and it's awesome and everything like that. My students who came into the class, I have them do a picha kucha to introduce themselves. My students, as creatives, they talk about their inspiration and who they are. So my students pretty much across the board, in the very first part, told people about their culture, ethnic backgrounds, what subcultures they're involved in, how they define themselves as creatives, how they got inspiration, like from their families and from their cultural backgrounds. So if you're looking at YASO's community cultural wealth model, my students definitely talk about their aspirations. Linguistics, they talk about the languages they know, what they use, familial, some social, and definitely cultural capital. So what happened in the course was one of my students identified themselves as being from like third generation in the United States, but Lebanese, and that their family still spoke Lebanese, I should say Arabic, and that their aspiration and the reason they're in this bachelor's degree is because they are a jewelry maker, and what they wanted to do was to develop. They found a market for Arabic jewelry in the US, and they identified the places where you could get it online, and they cited it not being high quality and things like that. So from this course, we knew that we would want to put in material that was Arabic, and so that's where Farah came in. So Farah.
Okay, there will be quiz in Arabic at the end of our
Yes.
presentation. So I just want to give a brief background by the way, that's just translation of the design thinking. Interestingly enough, why Arabic? Why there is a need for the Arabic design thinking? Arabic is the second most spoken language in the United Nations, spoken by over 400 million people worldwide, and it is increasing more, basically. So although the design thinking has been basically used by a lot of scholars and designers for years, believe it or not, it is until 2010 that the first word was translated in Arabic. And there are three different languages, three different words translated for the design thinking, but the one that you see written in Arabic in front of your screen, this is the most common one. I will put in the chat later the other. So the first translation was by an research engineering in Telecom Paris Tech, and his name was Shafiq Jabir. And all the research that has been recently done up to 2019 have acknowledged there is a lack of enough data in terms of how it is done. So it is fitting perfectly with the audience and the student of K in terms of we need to fulfill and we need to provide them with this information.
And So what I showed you from the Stanford D Lab, while if you know Farah, she will volunteer to translate the 40 pages for you, but we didn't think that was very sustainable. So instead, what we're doing, and this comes under the umbrella of translanguaging, which Shari will explain to you. This is what Farah found for us, so that our student can start getting the focal vocabulary needed to market jewelry. And because she would need to be able to not only do a website in English, but also do the website in Arabic. So we started to put this material in. So take it away, Farah.
The process, it is no different than the process that we do when we're designing any English speaking language. So you have the 4 steps, and for the next slide you will see there's no difference between the 2 other than just the language. So we start by reviewing the curriculum, creative spaces, processes, and tool and system. As with any design, and for all of you attending and anyone who work with instructional design, there's nothing set in stone. So it is always this process of retweaking that happens from one session, from one process to another one, until basically we reach the desired outcome. Same thing when we develop courses. Again, the first semester is always a pilot, and there's always tweaking going on as we go.
So
the 5 steps of the design thinking, again, this is just the مراحل 5 لعملية تفكير تصميمي, just the plain Arabic translation of that sentence. So you have the 5 steps that all of you have been using, especially for Kay in terms of her audience, as you will see in the next slide. So you'll empathize, you define, ideate, and create the prototype, and of course you test. And again, you have all of these loop. Okay, if you want to add anything, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we start what we're doing isn't necessarily an exact duplication of the material in English. This is providing supplemental for a student to be able to learn this. We've only done it for Arabic. We do plan to also include Spanish and English. Right now, it's just like a sub-module. We'll see about how exactly we can go ahead and incorporate it. And I can tell you, in this class, the students who were Latinx clearly identified themselves. So this is a course that people really did talk about what kind of cultural capital, also what kind of linguistic capital they're bringing in. And this is beautiful. I just love this because this I know this in English, and it's such a great image to get students to understand an iterative design process. And
correct, yes.
And so just some like some examples. This is what my student identified as that there needs to be other jewelers who do this.
And again, on the top of the slide, you will see this is just kind of, that's the first name, Aisha, and could be written with the C for the Francophone, or with the S for the English-speaking countries. And this is just written in Arabic using the one of the 20, well, few of the 28 alphabet of the Arabic. Anyone in the audience by the name, first name of Stacy? This is your name written in Arabic? Anyone? I don't think we have Stacy.
It's so beautiful. I could change my name to be able to claim it.
Oh yeah, isn't
it's
it?
calligraphy. It's calligraphy too. And when you learn the Arabic, you learn. Diana, I will write it in the chat. I will write your name in Arabic. This is Adriana. Although anyone who, do you see the line between, do you see my my mouse? So you have the first letter, you have the second one, and normally between these two, the third from the right, again, this is Arabic, like Hebrew, from the second and the third letter should not be any space between them, but this is kind of a pendant. So that's how you have kind of there's a goal behind. But when you write word, the first name is not. It is common in a lot of Arabic and mainly Muslim countries that a lot of individuals will basically have a pendant that will have one of the verses of the Quran or some or portion of it. And there are some many common one. It's almost like here when you see someone wearing the cross or the evil eye. So think of it the same analogy in a sense of they will be basically having pendant that has verses of the Quran.
So bringing language into this can make a significant difference, you know, like depending on the course material, and things like that. So we're just about done. Just wanted to say, as far, we're looking at this as linguistic justice, and how are you looking at languages? And this was started to get defined in 1984. Some courses in some institutions, language is considered the problem. You know, it's like we have one language, any other language is a problem. The second perspective is language as a resource. This is what you'll hear, especially in classes where there's predominantly English speakers, where, oh, any other language you learn, that'll just make you better for your job when you do international business and stuff like that. We're taking the viewpoint that language is a right, that students should be able to express themselves, especially in a class like business in the creative industries, in languages or cultures that are not the predominant language or culture. So and of course we have to throw that out here to think about it is yeah, we've been talking about decolonizing the curriculum. Think about languages. Is there some linguistic imperialism that's happening? I know at Front Range we're moving to a Hispanic-Serving Institute, and we're trying to make some efforts of doing languages other than English, and that is all for us. Thank you.
Well, this
Diane,
is
yes, I agree. Yeah, so you languages are inclusive and diverse. However, you probably have been in meetings or have seen things going on the internet and videos. Well, if you come to study, you have to know our language. Why should we accommodate you? So, and usually that's where the students are basically struggling in terms of finding a safe space and the true sense of belonging if information is provided to them in their own language. Thank you.
well, all of
Yeah,
this.
and like, oh, go ahead, Shari.
It's okay, Deanna, go ahead.
And it's just controversial point. There is still a I don't know if to call it racism. I don't know what else to call it, because of speaking another language. Story time. I was in Boulder. I'm not gonna say the name of the shop, with my mother, who doesn't speak any English. She doesn't live here. She only visits me once in a while. But she wanted to go because the shop was cute and it was all natural stuff and it seems amazing. And I went in there and she was asking me questions about the products. And I was obviously speaking to her in Spanish. We got kicked out because we were making people uncomfortable. So that's another thing that I've noticed with anybody that speaks any other language, even myself. I'm trying to change that, but I tend to start a presentation apologizing for my accent, which I shouldn't. But I do that constantly. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I have a little accent. If you don't understand me, let me know. I should stop doing that, which I'm actually trying really hard. But yeah, we just have that in the back of our head because we get discriminated.
Well, all of this blends perfectly into the presentation I'm going to give, which will help us understand a little more broadly what translanguaging is and how we can use it in our classrooms. And then also a way that we're working on with our grant to help reduce those language barriers and open education up to everyone, regardless of what language is their home language. So as I said, I teach English to speakers of other languages. And this year I'm getting to work with a team to find a way to use open educational resources to reduce language barriers for our students. Multilingual students graduate from our ESOL program with about an 80% fluency in English and the general understanding of academic skills in writing, research, and technology. That means there are still some language barriers to overcome when they begin taking their specialized courses. Traditionally, students must spend extra time and brain power deciphering the new language before they can begin engaging in the meaningful learning. In recent years, there's been a method that decreases this language barrier, and it's being practiced in educational spaces with good results, and that's called the translanguaging. So let me go ahead and share with you. Let's see, here it is. All right. So essentially, translanguaging is, let me minimize this so everyone can see. Translanguaging is encouraging students to include all of their language knowledge while they learn. And why is this important? One, our brain automatically uses all available language and creates connections with our background knowledge while we learn. So encouraging this in your students is important to long-term knowledge acquisition and application. Also, it's inclusive. Multilingual students introduce valuable linguistic and cultural perspectives to the classroom learning, and encouraging this cross-sharing contributes to a deeper understanding of how our course content affects the global community. So all of us benefit from that. Some of the common concerns with translanguaging that come up is, do I need to know a foreign language? The answer is no. Translanguaging strategies simply make room for multilingual learners to include their own wealth of knowledge in their learning. And another question, how do I know the student is learning? Well, currently in primarily English-speaking classrooms, students submit their formal assessments in English. So then how do I make room for this? A couple of ways: you can plan additional time for classroom activities. This not only allows multilingual speakers to kind of process some of the information and have that extra time needed to work with the languages they have to be able to vocalize and verbalize what they're learning, but it also is inclusive to our students who have neurodiversity, who also need some extra time to process. We can also assess evidence of critical thinking and course-specific skills rather than focusing a lot on grammar and syntax in English. If we're focusing our assessments on, are they showing critical thinking and are they using these course-specific skills in whatever I'm assessing, then really the English doesn't have to matter, because unless that's your content. If your content is English, then obviously you will evaluate on how are they applying the English concept that we have covered. But outside of that, you really need to be focusing on the evidence that they're applying and learning your course content. We can also encourage shared language collaboration in our students. So if we have 3 Arabic-speaking students, they can work together in some of these initial activities for the new content they're learning. And the Spanish speakers can work together to learn the content in their language, because this allows students to learn from each other the vocabulary that they might be missing. It also allows them to learn together, okay, this is the word in English, but what vocabulary will we use when we're speaking with people in the community that share our primary language? So it's very valuable, similar to what Diana was saying, just because, and Farah, because you have something in English, it's not going to be an automatic direct translation into another language. And some of these terms are still being developed in multilingual spaces. So having that community of same language speakers collaborating helps to strengthen and build that, that vocabulary in both languages. And then the part that we'll focus on today, because this is what our grant is working with, is providing access to multilingual course content. And one example of that was what Farah and Kay showed, of providing that side-by-side, this is what we're learning in English, and then now this is the Arabic version of that. So let me go ahead and let's experience this last strategy, because this is what aligns with my current grant work. Pretend we are native English speakers attending a college in Mexico. We have a robust understanding of Spanish, but we still struggle with fully understanding the new language introduced in our coursework. For example, next. Bien, buenos días y bienvenidos, mis estudiantes. Me llamo Shari Sandoval y mi pronombre es ella. Hoy vamos a aprender de las mitosis. Lean este texto y observen el modelo. ¿Qué observen de las fases? So as a student with non-native understanding of Spanish, what are some of the tools available to you for deciphering this content? And then how much additional time and brain power will it take you to fully access this knowledge before you can start to play with the concepts, do the critical thinking needed, make connections with what you know and with what you're currently learning? So now if your instructor understands the benefits of translanguaging and provides access to an English variation of this content alongside the Spanish one, how does this change your experience? So you'll notice these aren't exact, translations, but by providing the English-speaking students in that context, access to the general content that they're learning in Spanish and some of the illustrations allows them to create those connections between what they are learning in Spanish with what they are learning in English. And it helps them to be able to explore the content more deeply and then to build, like I said, the vocabulary needed in whichever language they're using in their profession or their community. So we have a sample workflow that we are working with to provide multi-language resources across a program's curriculum. And the place that we start is we ask instructors to ask, what are this course's top 3 concepts? And which 2 home languages outside of English does my student demographic usually include? And we ask these questions to create a starting point and to keep this goal and this project from being overwhelming, because there is a lot of work to be done in opening spaces to other languages. But we need to pace it and not try to do it all at once. And so by being curriculum-centered and student-centered, we can decide what needs to be prioritized as far as content and what needs to be prioritized as far as language resources. So where we start is with those questions the instructor determines the learner needs. And then in our institution, they are able to request materials, both the content and the languages needed from our librarian staff. And that staff will then look through the open education resources, databases in different languages to find the materials that are available. They can then send those materials to linguists and our accessibility teams to be able to conduct the quality analysis needed. They could send the Arabic to Farah, and Farah could confirm, yes, this is Arabic that is academic level and that is covering the content appropriately for what they need to be understanding. And they could send it to Diana, and Diana could say, yes, this is a Spanish that is close enough to a standard that most Spanish speakers would be able to easily access it. And those who have variations can quickly pick up some of the words that might be unique. And then they can send our linguist and accessibility teams will send that to the instructors who provide student access to the materials. We have our My Courses portals for online learning and for actually in-person learning, but it's where the students go to access the material for the program, the course. And so the instructor can publish the material, the resources in the various languages on that portal so that students can access it. Then we want to have the space where students and instructors take the time to evaluate the usefulness of those materials. Are they giving the students the knowledge they need? And is this process being successful for them? Is it helping them to integrate their primary language understanding with their new English learning understanding in a way that is useful to them, not just in the learning, but in using their content, their critical thinking, and in being able to take this knowledge into their community, regardless of which language they're working with. And then another aspect of this that's important is that we are wanting to create a central repository of learning where the instructors can then store these materials and allow everyone to be able to cross-share and access these. So we believe that this is a sustainable approach to increasing equitable access to knowledge for our community members because a team of colleagues are engaged in the process according to their skill set and paid role. The use of open educational resources makes free multilingual materials available to the institution and the students. And storing the multilingual content in a central learning repository allows professors to cross-share the materials, multiplying the impact of every effort the team makes, and encouraging continual progress toward decreasing language barriers. So to wrap up, there are 3 questions to challenge you today. Where do you or the staff people you support fall in the workflow that we're exploring? Is it reasonable to ask yourself and your colleagues to engage in this process? And is equity worth the investment? So if you have any questions, I think for any of us, we can open that up now.
We are at 9:50 here, so we need to wrap it up.
Okay.
I don't, if anybody wants to stay on and do quick ones if you'd like. I'm going, yep, I was just about to post that in the chat as well. We would love your feedback. And this recording, I believe, eventually will be posted on the 2024 conference website and maybe access on Discord. Thank you very much for joining us.